to Take Yourself to Work. We have an amazing guest today. We have with us soon to be Dr. Tomiko Meeks.
Yes.
Thank you for being with us this morning, Tomiko.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, Tomiko is a extremely educated woman of and very knowledgeable in one of the areas or one of the disciplines that I most admire, which is African American studies and history, because I truly believe the history keepers are the people who keep us on track.
I agree with that.
You are the truth
100%.
tellers. Fantastic. And so I'm going to let Tomiko tell us a little bit about her education and her background,
Oh, my.
and then we are going to jump right into the questions that we have for her. So, at Take Yourself to Work, we talk about people who have married their passions and their genius with their career and don't have to keep those two things separate and how they get to that space. And it's Women's History Month, so we're even more excited to talk to a powerful woman who figured out how to make that blend. Okay? All right, so without further ado, tell us a little bit about your educational background.
So, what do you want me to start with? My bachelor's
Yes.
or so I attended the University of Houston Central Campus. I went there thinking I was going to major in music, but
Wait, you sing? You play?
I play the piano.
Okay.
Yes,
Add that to her
I think I
list.
can sing, but yeah, I play the
We might have to
I
get a
play the piano.
sample.
No, 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 we're not gonna do that. I played the piano. And I was like, oh, girl, you're not going to make any money. You need to figure this out. And so I switched majors like 3 times and landed on psychology. Don't ask it. Yeah, I should have majored in history. I
So
should have.
that's what you received your bachelor's in psychology?
Industrial organizational psychology.
I like the fact that you said you switched majors 3 times. I don't understand how people don't realize you're not 18 knowing exactly what you want to do.
I tell my students this all the time. Like college, undergrad is where you go to figure out what it is that you want to do.
Hmm.
Coming in with this idea that, oh, I want to be a rocket scientist, you don't really want to be a rocket scientist.
Get in some of them classes, get in physics, and then decide.
Baby, let me tell you. Let me tell you. I thought I was going to do pharmacy and I took a pharmaceutical class and I was like, yeah, no.
Mm,
Science is not my thing.
okay.
My dad wanted me to be an engineer. I think like him. I went to a high school for science and engineering professions and I was like, I'm barely making it. But I excelled in like all the other things, languages, English, history. But that math and that science, not my thing.
Dads always want somebody to be an
Uh-huh.
engineer, doctor,
Yeah.
lawyer.
He's an engineer,
Oh, what type?
electrical.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
My dad's super smart.
Okay, so you trot through about 4 or 5
Yeah.
options and you land in psychology, which makes sense. I know you're saying you should have done history, but I think there's a definite merge between history and
There
psychology.
is. There is. And I really tried to do that, like merge it when I went back to school to work on my graduate degree, which, okay, so here's the thing. Um, I always thought that I was going to go into law,
Mm,
but not practice. I thought I was going to teach.
okay.
And so when I graduated, I became a paralegal and went to paralegal school, worked for a lawyer, realized that lawyers are not like my favorite people. Um,
Oh, wait a minute. Hold
I
on.
would say certain types of lawyers are not my
No, I'm
favorite type
joking.
of
Lawyers aren't my
people.
favorite people either, and I'm a lawyer,
Yeah.
so take that
It,
how you will.
it just like didn't sit right with my spirit. And but I was like I still wanted to go into law, so I worked as an in the HR field for many years. Ended up I was a HR director, and when you get to like administration, it it's grimy, and you have to do certain things that you don't always like. And it was at a point that I wasn't able to sleep at night, and so I'm
Mm.
like, okay, girl, what do you want to do? Go to law school. I went, I took the LSAT, and it was the most nerve wracking experience of my life.
Feel sad?
Yes.
Some law schools have done away with that
I'm
requirement.
glad as they should.
Well, they've determined it's really not a
It
good indicator of success as an
It's not.
attorney.
That's just like the GRE. A lot of grad school programs have done away with the GRE. because it's biased,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
it's not a good predictor. Minority students tend to perform poorly for many reasons, for
Mhm.
many reasons. And my score was good enough to get in, but then I was like, do I really want to do this?
Mm.
And I said, well, what is it that you really, really love? And I really, really love history.
Okay.
Because as a kid, and I'm blaming my mom, she would have me in the archives because she's a genealogist. In the
Your
archives,
mother's a genealogist?
yes.
Okay, it's all starting to come together now. It's all starting to make y'all. Do you see? Okay, go on.
And we would be in the archives on Saturdays from literally sun up to sundown.
Mm.
And if I wasn't there with her, my dad would always take the girls. I have two sisters, and we would go to the library on Saturday, spend all day at the library, go ice skating, whatever. But I was always at the library, either in the stacks or in the archives. So it was going to be something. It was going to be English or it was going to be history. And I love history. Like I love the stories, just everything, like the digging, the
Mm.
inspection, putting all of these pieces together.
Can
And
I just say, you
mhm.
may as well be a lawyer. It's the
It
same.
is. And this is what I tell my students who want to go to law school.
Yes.
I'm like, so you need to change your major. You need to do it today. You need to major in history because they like go together.
Yeah, all that digging, pulling the pieces
Yeah.
together, finding the thread of truth. That's
Hmm.
still legal
It
stuff too.
is. It is.
Yeah.
And I toyed with the idea for a hot minute because at U of H you could get a double degree.
Mm.
You could get your JD and your MA in
You
history at
just
the
like
same time.
school.
I do. My
Okay. Okay, because when people start telling me about double majors, you enjoy school.
my best friend told me, "Is this the last thing? Is this it?" I was like, "Well,
You
there's
mean right
nowhere.
now?
Yeah,
Is this the last
it
thing?
is. Cause like, where else can I go?
Well,
I don't. Cause if I think about it, then I will do it.
because
And
right now you're pursuing a doctorate from the Howard University,
you know,
HU, you know. I don't I'm not well, let me not get into your business, but does it feel that this might be the last thing you do?
I'm trying to make it the last thing that I do. I know I probably get on my family's nerves,
No, I mean, I feel like once you decide that you love the accumulation of knowledge
and I do.
and information, you may not go get another degree, but I can see you under someone else's tutelage or getting a
Yeah,
certification or working in a completely new space because that sense of discovery, I see it in everything that you're doing.
yeah. It is, and my advisor, I know she's probably like, she wants to choke me. Dr. Nikki Taylor, she has like been such an inspiration and
Mhm.
like really helping me get my ideas together, like grounding myself and finding my voice when I write, which is incredible as a scholar, as an intellectual, to have someone like pour into you
Mhm.
that way. And it's also I sort of try to model myself after her and do that with my students,
Mhm.
right? Because when I was in school, I didn't have that.
Mhm.
I didn't have um not all the time. I will say that because Dr. Conyers, God rest his soul, he did that. But it wasn't always the case of having, someone pouring into you and saying, yes, you're good enough. You're more than good enough, right? That's important to have.
So, you the undergrad's in psychology, the
Hmm.
master's is in history, the doctorate is in
So let me go back to the
Oh, I
masters.
missed something?
Yeah. It's a master's, but it's not just history, it's extractive industries. I focused on, and this was something that U of H did not have. It was not a set program because in history, most schools, you're going to be an Americanist, you're going to be a Europeanist, whatever. And I wanted
Wait a
to,
minute. When people study history, they have to select Which culture
Yes.
in history they want to
Well,
study?
not necessarily culture, but you have to specialize.
Okay,
Yeah. This is why,
like doctors.
excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend any historian. This is why historians are like really sort of strange
What?
people.
Now you've already offended lawyers. You're working your way through the historians. What? Why?
Because of the way that we study, right? We pick a topic and you drill down on that topic.
Super deep.
Like you know every aspect from the top to the bottom, all the stuff in between. You have to know it.
That must make you fun at parties.
Oh my God. I try my best to like separate myself from what I do and be quote unquote a normal person. So when I leave work or when I'm not in class, I just try to be Tomiko.
Yeah, but I do we have to? So that's always the question we're answering on the show. Do you have to separate? Does there have to be a work persona? This is who I am in my career and a personal persona, or is there a magic place that the two can coexist?
I think there is, but you have to be with the right group of people in order for that to happen. I'll give you an example. I was at a party one time at my aunt's house. She's a lawyer.
Okay.
I love her to death. And I'm just sitting there minding my business, my good business. And this woman, she walks up and I introduce myself to her and we're talking. And then this guy comes up and he gets into the conversation. I never say what it is that I do. And I'm listening. And then they ask me a question and then I start commenting on the question. And then they kind of sat back and looked and they said, "So what is it that you do?" And I was like, "Okay, so here we go.
Mm.
Here we go." And I said, "Well, I teach." And they were like, "Well, what do you
Oh, you
teach?"
started. You started to. You eased in. You didn't hit him
Yeah,
right over the head.
I can't because sometimes it's like when you tell people that you teach history, they're like, "Oh, no, no.
Why? I don't think
She
I would
knows
have that.
everything." And I'm like, "I know I don't. I know what
Mm.
I know. I don't know everything."
So I would like to say that is one of my least favorite questions.
Hmm.
It really bothers me, particularly if you just get to a party and you just are socializing and people say, "What do you do?"
Hmm.
In my mind, that question is calculated to decide people's value in the room.
Yes.
Do you have a job that makes you important for me to know?
Yes.
Do you have a job that'll be beneficial if I know you later? How much money maybe you make?
Hmm.
I bristle anytime someone
I
says,
do
"What do you
too.
do?" And if it's
I
not
do
a
too.
networking, if it's a networking thing, fine. We're here to talk about what we do. But if I'm in a social situation and we're playing taboo, don't ask me how I
Yeah,
make
I
my
hate it.
money. Me too.
I hate it.
Me too.
So I'm always like, "Oh, I herd cattle."
I heard
I'm
cattle.
like, that's what I do. Cause I don't like to talk about it. Not that I'm ashamed. I'm not. I
Mhm.
love what I do. But you're right. Like people put all of these, I don't know, like standards on you
Mhm.
and objectify you. And I hate that. Like
Mm.
I'm Tamiko.
So, you've got a million degrees. That's where we are. You've got all these degrees. You are you have the best party trick, which is knowing absolutely everything about certain things.
About certain things.
We're gonna get you on Jeopardy at some
Oh
point,
my
right?
God.
So, can you tell me why? And so this is the thing: you have chosen a profession, and so you didn't say, but the culture that you dug down into.
Oh, I studied Angola and
Okay.
I studied both like the ancient portions of Angola and modern Angola. And I worked on modern Angola and looked at Sonangol. Sonangol is the oil company, the national oil company. And because I was looking at extractive industries, yeah, that's what I
Oh,
was
that's
getting
what you
to.
meant by extraction.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Oil. And part of the reason was because my husband was working for Bechtel um, at the time in Port Arthur, and they were doing working on the pipeline. And I had gone to visit him down there, and it was horrid. It stunk.
Oh, yeah, the
Yeah.
environment right where the stuff
Uh-huh.
is. And were there residential neighborhoods?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And I was like, what is? And then he started telling me that people were getting sick
Mm.
and, all of these things. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I need to figure this out.
And so rather than study what was happening in Port Arthur, you went all the way to Angola.
I went all the way to Angola because of just the black people there, and what these companies are doing to people of color,
Mm.
right? Even people of color right here in the US, not just black people, but even indigenous people
Mm.
and crossing over their lands and all of that. But I wanted to start, in the motherland and look at that and look at what was happening because it's part of a larger story.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part of enslavement. It's a part of colonialism. It's a part of neo-colonialism. It's a part of World War II, right? It's all of these things, and I wanted to know like what was happening.
I I'm not a historian, so most of everything I have is me guessing, but I think if you dig scratch past the surface on almost every war, there's some major commodity like oil under it. Like
Oh
there's
yeah,
always,
oh yeah.
it's always follow the money.
Oil, rubber. Did she say fall? Hey,
Oil,
I
rubber,
start my
Congo has got their
classes with this. If you want to know like what's going on with black and brown people, follow the law and follow the money,
mm.
and you'll know the story.
I'm not gonna get sad. I'm not gonna get sad. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get sad because you know what? The resiliency of the diaspora
Oh yeah.
shines through at every point, right? And even and I am always praying for and thinking of our brothers and sisters in places like the Congo, which is still in great
Oh yeah.
turmoil. The death tolls
Hmm.
are crazy.
Yeah.
All to mine those resources that we put into our electronics, and you follow the stories of places like South Africa and
Hmm.
everywhere
Hmm.
else. It's always that almost pillaging of the resources of the land at the expense of the people, and then the profits go to some other
Yeah.
colonizing
Yeah.
entity, right? It's tough, even Haiti. So I get that, but I am at all times empowered and buoyed by the sense of resiliency, and I know that we continue to rise
Oh
from
yeah.
these things.
Yes. Yes.
So you focused on Angola, and the question that I was going to ask before we got into that was, how do you it's a it's very niche what you do. Not just being a historian, but being a historian of people whose story is almost never told or is certainly
Mm.
underrepresented in
Hmm.
history. So how do you show up in spaces that are not your career space, having all this additional knowledge about what the world is really like?
Hmm.
Does it make things hard?
N- no, I don't. Doesn't make things hard. I would say maybe sometimes, but I feel like what it does for me and what I hope that it would do for anyone, especially students that I work with, is that it expands your thinking, it
Mm,
expands your empathy. It allows me to understand that, as an American, and like
mm,
this is part of the problem in a lot of times, um, that things do not begin and end with me,
mm, mm.
right? I have to be mindful of that,
Yes.
right? I have a consulting firm, and I'm not doing it so much now that I'm in school, but one of my biggest clients was BP.
Mm,
And I would go and train their expats that were going to all producing countries like Angola, Nigeria. And one of the things that we talk about is how you conduct yourself, right? When you're in a space that you know very little about.
mm-hmm.
And part of that is educating yourself,
Yes.
right? So I help with that. I help you understand the people, I help you understand the culture, how
I did
to
not know you
comport
were in the
yourself.
cultural competency space,
Yes.
which I love. We have to talk more about this later. What's the name of your consulting firm?
TM History Consulting.
So I could go to tmhistoryconsulting.com and find you.
We're building that website.
Okay, okay, okay.
This
We're
is
gonna
this
get.
is another problem that I have of like talking about myself
Mm.
because I do so many different things, and it's just like, okay, so I do it.
Okay, well, could I do? Could we go? First of all, if you haven't trademarked your name, you should trademark it. Could we go to some place like a tomikomeeks.com and see all of the different things that you
You
offer?
could go to, well, right now it's all on my LinkedIn, which I know it's not a great space for it,
We need a Dr.
but
Meeks page.
yeah.
I'm gonna help you with that
Okay.
because I can
I'm
get you
down for
spun
it.
up very quickly.
Down for it.
Okay, that's one of my takeaway action items is to get you a branded page so people can see all the things you do because you are so widely valuable across so many things. I when I was getting my master's in IO psychology, one of the things I loved the most was the expat part.
Wait a minute. How do we both have IO psychology?
Is that what your undergrad was?
Uh-huh.
Okay, you said psychology. So I was late to the psychology game. I wanted to major in psychology, but I was concerned that somebody, my dad, told me it was a soft science. But I never stopped loving it. And so one of the major projects I did I did a temporary consulting stint while I was getting my master's with they have a consulting firm that's part of the master's program, was helping expats get cultural
Oh,
competency.
wow.
Yes, thanks. So I was working with the as a student consultant during the masters, and one of our major projects was people in the healthcare field, doctors in the healthcare field,
Hmm.
who were going to expat work in a sometimes third world country, but sometimes, which I don't even know what that phrase means anymore, but work in less
Developing.
developed, yes, a developing country, and preparing them for that in terms of the culture, in terms of supporting themselves and their mental health and wellness, and staying connected and finding a village. So when you said you were doing that, I thought, oh,
Yeah,
we need to chitty chat because I think there's some connectivity between us that we
there
could
is. There's a lot.
work on. So okay, I'm sorry, I digress. So let's see, you're studying Angola. Where were we? See, now I lost the thread.
Well, talking about, I did too.
Okay, well, let's just pick it back up with the next
Oh,
thing
I
I want to
know. I
know.
know what it was.
Okay, what?
Um, like finding myself in how do I bring all of this into spaces and how does it make me feel?
Hmm.
I think that was
Yeah, is
part
it
of it.
hard? Because you know
Is it
so
hard?
much and
Yeah.
you've seen so much.
I don't, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. I just feel like I have more empathy for people because I understand that everybody has a story
Mm-hmm.
and everybody's story is valuable and it should be valued,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that, you know, just because you come from a certain walk of life, it doesn't mean that you're more important than,
Mm-hmm.
someone who comes from a developing country,
A
you know.
developing. Okay. So you found a way to make it a superpower. Because I
The
feel like being really aware of the true history of the world feels heavy sometimes.
It is heavy. It's very heavy. And my kids will tell you I have trouble sleeping at night
Mm.
because I like live in my head
Hmm.
about certain things and dream. I dream history.
Ooh.
We were out of town once and I don't know what was going on. Um but my daughter, she woke me up and she was like, "Are you okay?" And
Were
I
you
was like,
talking?
and she was like, "You were fighting with someone." And I was like, "What do you mean I was fighting with?" She was like, "Yeah, you were in like this heated conversation." I said, "Well, who was it?" She was like, "Somebody named Henry Clay." And I just
Is that someone you're studying?
died laughing.
Okay, you've taken nerd to another level now.
Yes, it's so crazy.
She's in her
Like
sleep
Henry
talking to.
Clay is the great negotiator. I was like, "Okay, yeah, you need help."
Okay, that is wild. Wild. I've talked in my sleep before, but not to some person from history. So okay, so that's funny. So
Mm.
what was I going to ask you? Oh, okay. So when we were talking about showing up for yourself and things being heavy, How do you balance? Everyone asks this of women, so sometimes it's unfair. But I like to ask it because people want to know, how do you balance? I mean, you have full-time work, you're a professor, you have this doctorate degree you're pursuing, you have children, you have responsibilities. At some point, I assume you take time for yourself. How are you balancing that? Or if is balance even the right word?
I don't think it's the right word
Okay.
because I have not mastered that. I really haven't. Um, Even before I started working on my doctorate, I was not a good balancer. If I'm working on something, I will like literally stay up all night and
Mm.
just dig and dig and dig and dig. And sometimes it's like it feels like procrastination and overwork. Um, so I don't balance well.
Hmm. Do you find that take a toll on your relationships?
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. So what, I mean, do you have plans to shift this? Or you've just settled into this is who I am and I'm
I
not
don't
gonna
want it
balance?
to be who I am. I don't want it to be who I am because and I purposefully waited until my kids were older to pursue my doctorate because they pursued my master's with me.
Mm.
And I didn't want to do that to them again.
Oh yeah.
But then I'm doing it to them again.
But they're older, right?
They
They're in
are.
college or beyond.
They're in college, but they help me. When I say help me a lot, like this is how bad it is. If I didn't have them, I probably would not eat
Ooh.
because I just don't want to stop. If
Mm.
I'm writing, I just want to write. I want to do the research and I want to write. And my daughter, she's like, I feel like I need to dedicate the whole dissertation to her.
Taking care of
Oh
you.
my God. Oh
This
my
is
God.
what I call the obsession of genius. And I think, even though I'm gonna make fun of you a little bit about like just obsessing over this stuff, I don't think I've ever met anyone who left a real legacy of anything behind that didn't have that tendency, where they got
Mm.
completely lost in the pursuit of their passions to the exclusion of their real life sometimes. And so, yeah, maybe it's not balanced, and hopefully we pull you back sometimes, and your daughter pulls you back sometimes. But is there real progress without that little bit of full on upset?
I don't think so. I feel like you have to be committed to the work, right? To get it done.
Mhm.
And there's so much work to be done, especially like with what I'm working on right now, on my dissertation. I'm looking at Black women, Black girls who resisted their situation, resisted
I'm so glad we got to
enslavement.
this. I've
Yeah.
I've been waiting for this moment. Let me tee this up, okay? Not only is Dr. Meeks into she's come across the pond, or however you
I
say it.
have.
She's
I
come from
have.
Angola to the U.S. and in her doctorate work, and she is hyper focused on women
Yes,
who resisted through poison. Am I
you're
tracking?
correct.
Okay, tell us
Absolutely
more,
correct.
please.
So I need to go back a little bit. And I would say this is the beauty of going to a HBCU.
Hmm.
When I was at U of H, love U of H, but
Go
it's
Cougs.
not the same experience
As being at a
at being at
HBCU.
a HBCU.
I don't think anything is, and I don't know because I didn't get to attend one, but
Yeah,
I have a lot of jealousy around it.
I was jealous too. My sisters went to HBCUs undergrad.
Mm.
Um, and so the way that you learn, the way that you study, totally different. I appreciate it because I learned a lot. But then when I got to Howard, I was like, girl, you don't know as much as you thought you knew.
Ah,
I'm so serious. I'm serious. And one of the things that I realized that I did not know much about,
mm.
and I'm one, was Black women.
Wait a minute.
No, I'm serious. Like I know Black women. Like, right, I'm a woman. I know
A
Black
black
women.
woman raised by black women.
I'm telling you. And so I asked my advisor, I was like, I don't feel like I know enough to take my comps. if I have a question on black women, and I said, can you teach a class? And she was like, okay. So she taught this class. I'm laughing. She taught the class, and when we got the syllabus, I emailed her and I said, "Oh, I think that there's a mistake." And I could imagine she was laughing. I said, "Because there are like 110 books on here.
Oh my
How
gosh.
are we going to read?"
You asked for a class and then she buried y'all in reading? Oh my goodness. I know that class loved you.
That was the best class I have ever taken in my life.
Really?
Yes, it was the best class I
And it
have
was
ever.
hyper focused on the study of black women.
Yes,
What were the
yes,
gaps? Like what did you think
yes.
you did not know about the black female experience?
What did I think that I did? I just did not. I just didn't know. I
Hmm.
didn't know because that wasn't what I studied, right? I focused on Africa. I also focused on public history. And so, not that women weren't there, they just weren't there in the way that I wanted them to be.
Hmm.
And so, we literally, and this is all US, right? We literally went from the Atlantic world all the way up to civil rights almost.
What was if you could give us one big aha earth shifting moment that you took away from that course? What was something you learned that you were just like, okay.
So it wasn't that I learned it, it was reinforced that black women are the standard. My really good friend, her
Wait a
name,
minute. A moment for the statement. Say one more time.
black women are the standard.
Okay. Say more.
My really good friend, she also went to Howard, Dr. Kimberly Brown Pelham. Her work is focused on, um, I want to say fashion, but beauty.
Okay.
And her statement is black women are the standard.
Mm.
Taking that class helped me realize how true that statement
The
is
standard for what?
for everything. The standard for not just beauty, right? The standard in, for example, how you take care of your children, the standard
Mm.
for how you take care of your man, how you take care of your house, the standard for how you work, how you live, how you negotiate your spirituality. Like, whatever you can think of, black women were the standard for how you fight and resist.
This is so interesting because I am inundated every day in the comment sections, which I need to get out of, but in the comment sections on social media with people saying black women are the least desirable, the most likely not to get
Lies.
married,
Lie.
the most difficult, the single mother. So, what you are telling me runs in direct contradiction to the US propaganda of black
Mhm.
women. And so, I just, for the people, what you're the black women is the standard statement is a reflection of actual research done on how people emulate black women. Is that correct?
Yes. Now, I'm not ever saying black women do not have it hard or did not have it hard because they did. We can go all the way back to Virginia, 1662,
Mm,
when they wrote the law that essentially made slavery hereditary
mm,
based on your mom,
mm-hmm.
regardless of who your father was, right? If your mother was enslaved,
You were
you
enslaved.
were enslaved.
Don't hate to see it.
So, like,
Mm-mm-mm.
you're already 1662 working on a black woman's womb, commodifying it, commodifying her, commodifying any offspring that comes from her, right? And it also sanctioned, and this is something that I have in my dissertation, it sanctioned the rape of black women.
Well, you are talking about your colleagues' work, But we need to get back to this poison topic because it's my favorite thing when I learned that you were working on it. So let's circle back to resistance through this specific means.
Yeah. So this came about through a seminar class that I took with the Dr. Daryl Michael Scott, um, who's now at Morgan State. But when he was at Howard, he taught this class, and we had to write this very short little paper using the WPA narratives. If anybody doesn't know what that is, that's part of the Work Progress Administration during the Great Depression, where Roosevelt was trying to get people back to work. And so he sends out these interviewers, black, white, male, female, to interview ex slaves. And we had to use the WPA narratives and find a topic to write about. And so when I started, I was focused on writing about Fourth Ward because I had done quite a bit of
Fourth
work.
Ward, Houston, Texas.
Fourth Ward, Houston,
Okay.
Texas. Done quite a bit of work and written articles on Fourth Ward. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to extend this. And Dr. Scott was like, so you want to die on the sword of Fourth Ward? And I was like,
challenge.
well,
challenge
maybe
received.
not.
Okay.
And he was like, well, you might want to just think about it and expand your. So I started going through the WPA narratives, and I started seeing all this stuff. And one story that I wrote about, it wasn't about poison, but it was about this young girl who witnessed her owner, who was a female, brutalize her infant sister. And she remembered that, right? And so when she grew up, the woman who was the owner gifted her to her daughter. And her daughter, by the ex-slave's account, was, much kinder than her
Okay.
mother. But the mother would always come to the house and visit. And so there was this one particular time that she came and she said something off the wall to her. And she's still remembering what she did to her sister. And so she knocked out. And the woman's daughter was
sometimes you gotta
like,
knock somebody out. I mean,
well, you get what you
everybody has a limit.
Yes.
Slave or free, everyone
Yes,
has a limit.
Everybody has a limit. And the daughter was like, well, you should have kept your mouth closed and you got what you got.
Okay.
And that like struck a chord with me. Right. Seeing that and hearing that. And so I started thinking about, wow, I wonder what else was going on. And so
you never hear these things.
Yeah, exactly.
These are the
Exactly.
buried stories. The people are still saying people enjoyed slavery. They had a
Yeah,
place
no,
to live
they-
and food to eat.
No, they did.
Oh.
Dr. Scott was like, well, you should start looking at some newspapers. And I was like what now?
Like from the 1700s newspapers?
Baby,
Where
when
are
I
these
say
things?
juicy,
Where are you finding these things? What
the
archive?
archive.
Where are the 1700 newspapers?
So I subscribe. And I mean, any library should have them, but I pay for a subscription to newspapers.com.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I started combing the newspapers, and all of these stories about poison started popping up. And I was like, poison? What? They were poisoning people? And there was this one story, Aurelia Chase. She poisoned her master and she got sent to the workhouse. But it wasn't just that she got sent to the workhouse. The workhouse was like a just temporary stopping point for a couple of things. Her end result was that she was going to be executed. And so they execute her, full public display, but that wasn't enough. Then they take her body and they do these galvanic experiments on them.
I can't.
On her. I'm sorry.
I just cannot.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No, see, that's the thing. That's why you're a historian and I'm not. Because I get to a place where I can't, like, some big metal fence comes down, like, shoot, don't read anything else. You're going to unravel. I don't know how
I've
you have the
unraveled
stomach.
many times.
I cannot.
I would be sitting at the table like, I know what? Yelling and screaming. And my kids are like, what? What's going on? Oh, it's these women.
I don't know who the person was. Some great orator at some point was talking about or it might even been, I'm not sure. I don't want to just credit the wrong person, but the how what a great trick it is to commit acts of savagery on a people and label the people, the victims, the
Hmm.
savages.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't want to, I don't remember who said it. I just read it recently again. I can't take it. I can never be a historian because I get mad about people who've been dead for 500 years. I'll still get mad right now like it happened yesterday. I don't have the stomach for it. So let me say this because we're going to do our last little segment where we get hot takes from you on people, current events, folk who are trying to move the needle, and you can say yes for the culture or no culture vulture. Okay, for the culture or culture vulture. Ah, one
Culture
more time.
vulture.
For the culture or
For the
culture
culture,
vulture.
or culture vulture.
Yes, that's what we're gonna do. So, if you want to learn more about Tomiko Meeks, Professor Tomiko Meeks, soon to be Dr. Tomiko Meeks, very soon we'll have her website out, drmeeks.com. But in the meantime, where can people find you?
You can find me on asala.org. You can find me on tsu.edu. Go to history department and find faculty. Where else can you Instagram, Professor Meeks, and LinkedIn.
And she is available for public speaking engagements, and she
Yes.
is an amazing speaker, very inspirational. You always leave with something. So that's the wrap up on how to find her. Let's do this really quickly
Oh my
because I
God.
need to know. There's a
I
lot of
hope
people
I'm
out here who
ready.
say they're carrying the water for the culture. A lot of us are currently on break. I'm part of the 92%. I did what I was supposed to do. I'm on break. I'm on break. Y'all fix it. This is y'all problem. We told y'all what was going to happen. Y'all fix it. I'm on break. But there are people still out here trying to do the work. So I'm going to drop some names of people who are out here in the public saying a lot, and you tell me, are they for the culture or culture vulture? We'll start with one of the most embattled voices, which is Sean King.
Culture vulture.
Why?
I mean, so I would say part of it was this whole little thing that he had going on with Oprah and whether or not he was biracial or not. I don't know if he ever really cleared it up.
Are you giving him Rachel Dolezal vibes?
I much. And then, he came out as the Black Lives Matters champion and then disbanded the organization. Like, so what are you doing?
You know, I don't know this man, and I never dug deep enough to figure out yay or nay on him. But a lot of black women said that he harmed the cause in various ways, and I tend to believe black women, so that's just where I am on
Yeah,
it.
believe black women.
Okay, Angela Rye,
Angela Rye. Do I know Angela?
public. She's on CNN a lot. She's a very attractive young woman. She's on the news constantly.
I don't know. I think I need to pass
Okay,
on her.
pass on her. Jasmine Crockett.
Baby. Mm,
You have to say for the
for the culture.
She's the one.
She, oh my God.
Leo. She is the one.
I, I, I will stalk the socials to see Jeff.
I have a whole Google alert
Oh my
set just so I
God.
don't miss what whoever she read for filth that day. And I don't know how she does it. This is again, it
It's
has
a
to be.
gift.
It
It's
is
a gift.
a gift. She is unbought, unbossed,
And unbothered.
lit. That part.
Ooh,
I love it for her. I love it for her. And
yes.
she went to U of H.
I don't
She
think I
graduated from
knew that.
U of H Law School. I have known Jasmine Crockett for many, many years. She is exactly who she says she is.
Baby, I love
She
it.
has always been exactly who she says she
I,
is.
when I, whew,
Jasmine Crockett for the people.
but all the people everywhere.
Okay. Okay, I will give you one more. It's still Women's History Month. So
Hmm.
let me
Hmm.
okay. In fact, you brought her up. Where do you land on Oprah herself? She gets a lot of flack.
Oh my gosh. Lord, do I have to be on the camera to say this?
Oh Lord. Are you about to get us all canceled?
Eh, can I plead the fifth?
You can pass.
Hmm.
Wow. You have feelings about this.
I do. I got big, big, big feelings.
Really?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell me a little bit? Oh, so are you on the bubble or you really want to say
I
she's
really want to say
okay?
something else.
Okay. Okay, let's not get canceled today.
Yeah, let's not.
Okay. Meghan Markle.
Megan. Megan.
You have your face. So many feelings. So she's not for the culture.
Baby girl.
She did just shoot Le Creuset's stock price up through the roof because baby, everybody I know ran out.
La Crusette is not for the culture neither.
I know.
Have you seen them prices?
However, there is like a Sheila Bridges Le Creuset little like Harlem Toile set designed by a black woman. I got my one eye on it. Okay. Okay. Now you done passed too many times now. You gotta
I'm not
do the next one. You
culture vulture.
okay. Okay. I gotta give you a softball or something. 'Cause you're okay. Gosh, I don't even have anybody else because I thought you was gonna hit those. Let me think of one more. You got one? Talking to the producer. You got someone out here? Nobody? Mm, no, he's not alive. There has to be someone alive right now in current events. Beyonce.
For the culture.
Okay.
Like, let me say this. Everybody feels however they feel about Beyonce.
Mm-hmm.
Some people feel like she's not articulate enough. Whatever. Whatever you want to say. When baby girl New Year's, was it New Year's or New Year's Eve? Whatever the game was, I don't even watch
That
football.
Texans game?
I don't even like football.
Mm-hmm.
But that show, and then she had Texas Southern Ocean of Soul.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how the students felt? They are still. Let me say it one more time. I go to Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church where the Reverend Marcus Z. Cosby is my pastor. And he said when you say something 3 times, people get it. They still talking about it.
Listen, you can say whatever you want about Beyonce. You can like her singing, you cannot like her singer. You can call her a pop singer. You can say she's not really country. You can say she did Destiny's Child wrong. You can say whatever you want, but she has always been for the culture.
Always.
Unwavering
Always.
for the culture. Digs deep into the culture.
Yes.
Her visuals, her dance styles, the rhythm she chooses, her production, her all woman band. She always shows up for the culture, which a lot of people don't do when they hit these echelons. So you don't have to like Beyonce's music. You don't. But you're not about to act like she sold out on the culture.
You definitely not. I'm not in the beehive, but I like Beyonce.
Okay. And that is a good note to end on. Again, so happy to have this powerful, prolific historian with us today. Thank you for hanging out. We actually wanted to have Tomiko feature Dr. Meeks, soon to be, during Black History Month because she does a lot of work with the Asala organization.
Asala, yes.
Which, if you're trying to get involved during these next 4 difficult years with a group that is still moving Black history forward, even when they're trying to sort of quote unquote cancel it,
great organization.
Asala.com, they're doing the work. .org, I'm sorry. Asala.org is ASALA.org. If you're just looking for a group that's already out there and you can lend your voice or your money or your time to all 3 apparently. So thank you so much for being with us here again today. And we can't wait for your podcast to go live. If you have questions, shoot us an email at birdhouselive@gmail.com if you have further questions for Dr. Meeks, and we'll get them over to her. All right? All right, thank you.
Oh, this was fun.